Hi, today we're going to look at the settings in Moodle. So click on settings, should load right up. Now, your full name is probably set by the district, as is your short name. However, if your short name is some kind of nonsense little phrase, you might want to change that. You notice that you've got the Moodle, the main homepage, and then your short course name right here. So if your short name doesn't make any sense to you or your students, you might want to change that. Summary, type in the summary of your class or of the lessons that you're doing. Now, something that's going to be in all of your Moodle modules, and a module is something other than the main page or something that impacts the main page or whatever, you're going to see these little question marks. Now, these question marks are your help files. They'll help you out throughout the thing. So, Moodle course formats. Now, you've got all of these descriptions of the different formats, and that can help you to decide what you want. In reality, with the format, you're probably going to pick either topics or weekly. I usually end up picking weekly because I teaching college classes, so it's a little bit easier to run the weekly module. The students follow along better. But if, let's say, you're teaching social studies and you're not entirely sure at the beginning of the semester as you're setting this up if your students are going to be able to master medieval Europe in a week, or you're going to need 2 weeks for that, and maybe only 1 week for the French Revolution, or whatever, you can do the topics format. Both are really, really cool, and if you're doing weekly, you can do CSS, no tables. It's just really your preference. It doesn't change everything all that much. Important thing that you need to notice is see how many weeks of classes are going to be included in your Moodle. So there's one of two options here. Option number one, you do it for the total number of weeks for your semester. So if it's a college class, it'll be 15 or 16. If it's a high school class, however many weeks your semester has allotted, or your school has allotted for this semester. Or if you're doing just a project, this is option number two, you could say this project is going to last over the next 5 weeks, so I'm going to set it to be 5 weeks, and I'm going to do topic format, because the first topic is going to be introduction, so on and so forth. There's not really a set calendar date to my topics. So this is going to be for a project, and the project's going to take us the next 5 weeks. I want the project to start on Monday, March 22nd. So it's already set up there. Hidden sections, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. News items to show. And this is talking about if you type a news item, such as a reminder or an important announcement, it'll show up in a sidebar. Show grades. This is for students to be able to track their grades. Now in this situation, I'm going to be doing just a class project, so I'm going to do show grades now. Now there's a good reason for not showing grades. If students see a grade in Moodle, they assume that it is their whole course grade. So it can get very confusing very fast unless you spend a significant amount of time helping students understand. Now, your students might be used to seeing their grade for projects as projects are progressing, so you might want to set that to yes. Here I'm doing no. Activity reports, I want to set that to yes, so that people can see who's working on projects and who's doing what, and see who's logged in, who's posted what, so on and so forth. When you're setting your maximum upload size, make sure that this one right here is pretty high. You want this to be as high as it can be. You can restrict this in other areas, but overall, you want this to be as high as possible. So if you log in and it's down at 10 kilobytes, make sure you knock it up to the highest you can. Force theme. The theme is the way that the website looks. So if you want it to look the same way to everybody, you can force the theme. I'm not going to do that because I'm the only one going to be logging into this website. Is this a meta course? Ignore that. It's very complex. Well, not very complex, but you don't need to worry about it. Enrollments. Don't worry about this at all. Set it to your site default. Your school will probably have it so that your students are automatically registered into your Moodle classes. Enrollment expiration notice. Don't worry about that. Groups. So for this instance, I'm going to be doing a class completely comprised of, or a Moodle completely comprising one project. Well, this is a group project, so I want groups. These groups are going to be for the entire project. Now I select separate groups, and I'll show you if I click the question mark here. Separate groups, each group can only see their own groups, others are invisible. Now if I wanted them to be able to see each other's groups, I could select visible groups, but since this is a group project, I want each group to focus on their own efforts. Force, yes. Default grouping is none. This course is available to students that are going to be enrolling in it tomorrow. Holy cow. Enrollment key. This is if students are able to self-enroll, or if you want guests to be able to log in and see work, they need the enrollment key. So I'm going to set the enrollment key to Sneaky, S-N-E-A-K-Y, and I can click on mask to make sure I typed it correctly. And then guests, I'm going to allow guests in who have the key. So if maybe parents want to log in and see what the students are doing, I can give them the enrollment key, or maybe administrators or whatever, district principals and the like. So Sneaky, they can log in and see what's going on. Generally, it's a good idea to either have allow guests who have the key or do not allow guests in, because you get into some privacy concerns, because if anybody can log in and see what your students are doing, that gets a little shady. Force language and so on, we're not going to force language here. That might be beneficial, forcing language, if you have a French class or a Spanish class. You might want to force the language to be the foreign language that you're teaching to get the students used to reading and writing in that language. Now down here, role renaming. So when these specific roles show up in the class, they're going to look like I've renamed them. All of the other roles I'm fine with, but non-editing teacher, I'm going to have tutors involved in this project. So I want my non-editing teacher, who's not able to assign grades or anything like that, I want them to be called tutor. Well, that's all done, so I'm going to click Save Changes. See you later. Today we have talked really quickly about the basic settings that you can go through and how to get your Moodle site started and ready to go. Next time we'll talk about editing and adding assignments.